Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. It's Bear here, and I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, aboxwithnolid, a channel I'm creating not just to bring awareness to the realities of complex trauma, but I really want to get into the understandings and the mechanisms so that you guys can learn more and create ways, your own ways, to help yourselves to heal and to make really good use of the resources that you have. Now, in today's video, and the next two videos after this one that I'll post, in the following couple of weeks, I want to start to break down the understanding around something that we all know, but I've found through what I've seen over many, many years advocating around support for mental health and talking with a lot of survivors of many different types of trauma. The understanding of the differentiation that we have in these states is not really there. It's not really grasped in a reality that is needed. And what I'm talking about is fear. We all understand what fear is. We all understand how fear plays out. And society tells you face your fears and they'll go away. Excuse me. But when you're looking at trauma, fear is a whole different animal. It's a whole different ecology. And it rides all of our experiences. And it shapes how we can learn and bring in new ways to live or to heal or to work things out. Because if we are triggered into a fear state, our higher brain functions, our cognitive functions shut down. So we struggle to learn. We struggle to retain. We can read book after book after book, but we're not actually absorbing what we're learning because there's this fear state running in the background. And for a lot of people, especially if you've gone through early childhood or preverbal or young childhood trauma or complex trauma, multiple type, multiple event, being in a fear state is so normal. It doesn't register anymore that we are until it gets to a really heightened level. But it still affects how we learn and how we take in new information and how we live our day-to-day lives. So I just thought over the next 2 to 3 videos, well, 3 videos is what I've planned, I want to get into this understanding because it plays a huge part in the mix with attachment. And in the third video of what I'm doing here, I'll really get into that more. But attachment and fear states work hand in hand. They are present together and they need to work together to be able to heal both aspects. So what is fear? Now, we all know being afraid of something and what that's like. We all know if we're being triggered to be afraid of something and what's that like. But to keep it simple, for me, there are 2 basic types of fear. There's learned. Learned fear is obvious. You've had an experience with something and it taught you to be afraid of it. Like the dog barking in the background. I don't know if this mic can pick it up. The neighbor's dog's going off. So that person, if they didn't know that dog walked in and got bit, they knew and learned. They created a learned experience to be afraid of dogs. That is a very common everyday type of fear. Then there's assigned, the second type of fear. And what I mean by assigned fear is what you get through traumatic experiences. Assigned fear is what you get through early childhood and pre-verbal trauma or complex, multiple type, multiple event, prolonged traumatic experiences. Because assigned fear is not a fear of a particular thing or a particular set of triggers or a particular event. It is a generalized fear state that is 24/7 active within us, that we assign to new experiences. We assign to things that make us feel uncomfortable. We assign to learning new things. We assign to different activities throughout our life and day. And yes, we'll even assign it walking up to a house with a barking dog. The first, a learned fear, the most common way you will work with it is you will desensitize, you'll work with it, you will start to understand the natures of dogs, if we're using that as an example. You will learn how to read the ones that are safer to approach and how to approach and so forth and so forth. And you can gradually get through that fear through a desensitization and an exposure technique. And when you're looking at psychology and psychiatry, the most common way they address fear states is that they'll create, or you'll have ways created for you that you will slowly be desensitized, and you over time will lessen the triggered response to it. When we look at assigned fear, that generalized fear state that trauma creates, that technique will not work. I know some of the textbooks might say that will work, but I personally, in many, many years of being around many, many different people and situations around this, I have never seen it. I more often see that it reinforces the need to be afraid. Yes, a person can learn some skills and address a particular task, but the internal process of the reasons to be in that fear state get fed and are increased. And that is why this is so important and why I'm making these couple of videos around this. It is understanding what drives an assigned fear state. A learned fear state is an external interaction. An assigned fear state is an internal response. What we are afraid of is not what so much is happening out there, but is in our ability to cope, our ability to respond, our ability to protect, our ability to process, our ability to experience. What we are afraid of is our capacity to be safe, to be able to do what is asked or expected of us, or what that situation would require. That is what is driving that fear state. And you cannot desensitize that fear state because it is so vast, and it revolves, like I said in the beginning of this video, it revolves around attachment. If we are connected and part of, we can learn to ease that fear state and gradually heal and come out of it. But we need to be able to attach and connect in the right environments, and we need to have enough actual experiences of being safe to be able to ease that response, to get the skill sets up so that we can, we get a confidence in our ability to respond. We get a confidence in our ability to cope. We get a confidence in our ability to participate. So when you understand that, the approach is different. And for the majority of us, if we've gone through a complex trauma base, if we've gone through pre-verbal or early childhood, we have an assigned fear state. And we need to see that it is different from everything, every story, movie, and everything tells you, face your fears and they will go away. We can't face these fears because these fears are internal. And it's about our ability to do things, our ability to respond. And there lies this fundamental understanding. And when you work with this stuff, like in the next video, I'll get into a little bit more detail. But when you work with this stuff, it's about developing the skills to enact and experience and participate and problem solve. That's how you work with these fear states. And the other aspect is an assigned fear state is, for me, the most debilitating. It will shut you down. It will put people into a fetal position. It will drop people. So all of you out there, or anyone watching this video that doesn't respect how strong these fear states are when completely triggered, they will drop a person to their knees. They will stop a person. They will put them into a complete freeze state. They will put them into a flight state or a complete outburst state. This needs to be respected, and it needs to be understood. And it needs to be understood that these responses are we're not choosing to make the responses that we do. It is our body, our autonomic systems creating a response to try to protect and survive. A direct threat response is driven around this fear state. So really take the time, as I say this in a lot of videos, and get that aha moment of understanding the difference within yourself. Because most of us have both. We have a learned fear state and we have it assigned if we've gone through enough complex trauma. And it's differentiating which is which, and it's understanding how they feel different. Because in the next video, when I go into working with it a little bit more, that is a key understanding to have. You need to know, I know this fear is from my assigned side, or I know this fear is from my learned side, because how you approach each one is fundamentally different. I hope this video makes sense to all of you out there. As always, I love your guys' comments and feedback. I love your guys' questions. So be safe, be mindful, be respectful, and I'll see you all next time.